The first question, Diego, did you feel the disqualification was justified? Rios said you were poking him in the eye, and that's ultimately why the fight was disqualified. What is his thought on the ending of the fight?
Sentí que fue justificada la descalificación porque Rios dijo que le metiste el dedo en el ojo.
La verdad que no. Fue tiro una mano, él mete la cabeza sobre mi bajo brazo acá y quedamos trabados, pero en ningún momento traté de buscar o ensuciar la pelea. Yo quiero preguntarle a ustedes el porqué de mi descalificación cuando HBO me tenía arriba en el puntaje.
It was a clinch and his head was under my arm and I wanted to be free and I never wanted to put anything in his face or his eyes. And what I wanted to do is to ask you what you think about the disqualification.
I'm not a ref, so I'm not.
Because HBO...
We want to know what he thinks of it, not me.
No, all of you, not only you.
Not anybody in here. We don't care what anybody in here thinks. We care what you
We wanted
think.
to ask everybody what you think about the disqualification because he knows that HBO had in all his scorecards on the top.
Diego, did Vic ever warn you, if you foul again, I'm going to disqualify you? Did he ever say that?
He come in the 8th round. The fighter didn't know. The referee come in at the 8th round and he say, to the corner, and he say, I'm going to disqualify you.
To both corners or just his corner?
No, I don't know the other corner.
No, he wouldn't have said it to the Rios corner, because Rios only had one foot.
Okay. The other thing that going in the fight, he was yelling about your head going up. Can you explain what you were doing with your head as you were kind of raising your head up? And when they were in the clinches, Rios was complaining that Diego was raising his head up and kind of raking him with his head.
Dice que Rios se quejaba de que vos levantabas la cabeza en el clinch.
¿Qué más voy a decir? Rios hizo lo que quiso, puedo mostrar mi ceja, mi espalda, para demostrar que Rios hizo lo que quiso.
He did what he wanted. I did with my head like this because he's always straight with the head, like a third punch. And he did what he wants with the head. He hit me back all the times, and I show my back for you to see what the blows made him in his back. You know the blows in the back. Everything blows in back. Not here. It's illegal. It's illegal.
And then Diego, last question for you. You seem to have much more success when you used your speed and stayed away from him, stayed on the outside. When you got inside is where Brandon was able to land punches. I know it's a tough fight, but why didn't you stay on the outside more and move instead of standing there with him and engaging in that wrestling in the middle of the ring?
Dice que te veía mejor cuando te movías y porque en algunos momentos te quedabas en la distancia corta.
Lo primero que nada me quedaba porque tenía que cortarle un poco los golpes a él, ya que venía con muchos golpes volados. Acortaba distancia para sacarle un poco de fuerza a él y después me movía.
Because there are some words that I cannot use. Word for you.
English, not
Thank you.
I asked him about the...
Okay. La potencia de los golpes de él. Y de cortar distancia para después recuperarme y volver a moverme.
You know, if I didn't fight him close up, he would have an advantage. He'd be able to land some shots from a long way away. By getting close to him, I was smothering his shots, and I felt, that since I was still tired from the trip, I didn't want to give him that much advantage, so I was trying to smother him a little bit, and then get back.
Ricardo, could you ask Diego, when the fight was waved off, did he assume that he was just getting another point deduction, not the final disqualification?
Yo no había, bueno, no entendía el porqué de la descalificación, porque enseguida dije allí, pero no entendía el porqué.
I understood that the fight was over. I didn't know why. That's what I didn't understand.
Okay, now,
I just want to say something. In the past, when we had a lot of controversies and fights and so forth, as you know, the commission was nowhere to be seen. Now, in this situation, we have the chairman of the commission, the executive director. I want to personally thank them because obviously only they have the official explanation of what happened regarding the disqualification and so forth. So I'd like them to come to the microphone. Oh, you have a microphone there? Good. And they'll be able to explain.
Explain? Let me just start by saying I know no fan of boxing ever wants the referee to make the determination of a fight. However, there are circumstances and points in time where the referee does have to get involved. And you may not agree with it, but you have to understand it, and I have to explain it to you. Vic, early on, tried to set a standard in that fight between these two fighters. This was not a boxing match, this was a brawl. They were there to brawl. Vic tried to get control of that fight by deducting the points. Whether or not you agree that point was appropriate, he was trying to get control. And as the fight went on, he was losing that control, and I don't think either corner had respect for the authority in that ring, and that is my concern. When he went in there to lay down the law, they were not listening, and that fight was disintegrating to a point where it could become dangerous. And it is our responsibility as the officials in that ring to take ownership of that ring. And that's what Vic did. He did comment, he did speak with the corners knew what was coming, there was notice to them, it wasn't a surprise action. However, we have the obligation again to ensure that our officials are doing the best job they can. We just left our staff meeting where we met with the judges, we met with the referees, we talked about every fight, and Vic has committed to coming in to the office, reviewing the tape with our executive director, and understanding exactly what he could have done better as an official, and how he could have had more control of that fight. But also, too, the fighters have an obligation. If the fighters aren't willing to cooperate, there has to be accountability.
Bob, I guess the question would be for you as the executive director. Specifically, in your mind, what happened? What could Vic have done to get more control of the fight, other than taking the points that he took? You know, should he have talked to them more? Should he have spoken to them earlier? Is there anything specifically that you saw sitting there that he could have done earlier to get control?
Actually, Kevin, I think that's an excellent question. I can tell you before every fight that we have briefings. And at the conclusion of the fights, we debrief. Okay, in this particular fight, I specifically got with the referees to talk about the challenges they had in New York last week. Okay, where the judge not passing any judgment on Doc, where he ended up taking a point and he decided to fight. We wanted to make sure, we always want to make sure that the referee doesn't decide who wins or loses the fight. We discussed specifically tonight, prior to the fight, for the referee to take charge of each and every fight that we have. That being, if the fighters aren't cooperating, aren't fighting in accordance with the rules, then they're going to take the point. They already get their instructions in the dressing room. Then they get them in the ring. They get a warning. And in this particular fight, Vic, in his 30-plus years of refereeing fights, he considers this to be one of his toughest. He took 2 points from Chaves prior to DQing him, and he took 1 from Rios. And he took them, and I believe, in the 3rd and 8th round and the 5th round on Rios, but I might stand corrected that.
Well, can you clarify a rule? Because one thing I don't understand. Bob made the point, which if you get a 3rd foul, there would be a DQ. But is it an automatic DQ on any, like, in other words, if he had 1 for a headbutt, 1 for an elbow, and 1 for holding, are they different, or do you have to have, have to be 3 of the same thing in order to get a DQ? Do you see what I'm saying?
Of course, I'd be happy to answer that. If it's an egregious, intentional foul, you're obligated to take 2 points is one of your options. The second is you can be DQ'd automatically on a intentional egregious foul. Vic, I thought, provided a great deal of patience, an attempt to control that fight, and as Chairman Aguilar said, it was more of a rumble than a fight. And that's my response to that question.
And then lastly, just to follow up on another time, so you're happy that Vic took enough control of the fight? Vic did everything that he could have done as an official, in your opinion, to control the fight, short of making a DQ?
You know, I think Vic did the best job he can do. I think, just like the chairman said, come Monday morning, we'll go over the fight, we'll review it, we'll see what we could have done better, we'll see what we did right. I mean, in that particular fight, you know, you can take a look at the judges. The judges were in agreement in the majority, 87.5% of the time. In the WBA final, the judges were in agreement over, I think, 92% of the time. So, you know, we take a look at everything that we do. In the beginning, before a fight, and at the end, then we'll go ahead and reevaluate our positions. But I think Vic did the best he could do, and I think he really made a concerted effort to take control of that fight, which was evident by the number of points that he took from both fighters.
I think the main question for me, and I'm curious what both of you gentlemen think, is why then and why Diego Chaves? In other words, why did he do it then, and why specifically Chaves in that moment? Did he explain why?
I think there was a question of whether or not there was an intentional foul occurring early on in the fight. That was brought up to the ref's attention. He spoke to both corners about it. And then when he saw the forearm go to the forehead, he then made that decision at that point in time.
You know, Al, in addition to your question, also it was brought to Vic's attention that Mr. Chaves allegedly was gouging at the face of Mr. Rios, at his eyes, and things of that nature. That's an egregious foul. Vic didn't see it, the corner brought it to his attention. Vic then went over to Mr. Chaves' corner and told him, hey, look, I didn't see this, it was brought to my attention, you keep this type of action up, you're going to be disqualified. Then the round went ahead and kicked off, and as Chairman Aguilar stated, they got locked in close, and he threw an elbow through to the throat, the forehead. You know, we didn't have 16 cameras to look at it, but you know, from our vantage point, that's what Vic saw.
But Bob, to follow up on your answer then, if you're saying that he never saw the gouge to the eye, and then the first time he saw it was when he ultimately disqualified him.
No, he didn't say that. He said it was an elbow that he disqualified,
right, but he
not a gouge to the eye.
He was saying it was a gouge to the eye.
No,
he
said he was warned.
No, what I had just stated was that it was brought to Vic's attention about the eyes from the Rios corner. Vic did not see that. He went over to the Chaves corner and explained to him that type of action is not going to be permitted. Then the bell rings and the round continues. They get close, they get clinched, and he throws a forearm according to Vic, and either Vic said hit him in the throat or the jaw or something, and he said, all right, I've had enough. That's it, I'm disqualified.
And Miguel, you know, just who was in the corner of Chaves, said that before the 9th round, Vic went over and said exactly what Bob said that he said.
It's also to the overall control in the ring, and with both fighters armed, respecting the authority in that ring, you're going to run into some safety issues.
Okay, it's gonna.
Mi nombre es Osvaldo Rivero, soy representante, apoderado y amigo de Diego Chaves. Hace
He's Osvaldo Rivero. He's Diego Chaves' promoter and friend.
Hace 30 minutos que estamos tratando de hablar de la pelea. Hay un concepto en el deporte generalizado. Hay un concepto generalizado en el deporte que el mejor referí, ya sea en boxeo, en fútbol, en básquet, es el que pasa desapercibido. ¿No?
We've been discussing for almost 30 minutes about all this, and there is a main concept in soccer, basketball, boxing, that the referee is like in a Spanish thing, that is there, but you don't see him. You understand?
En este caso no se habló de la pelea,
In this
de
case,
quién fue el mejor boxeador, quién hizo las cosas bien, quién hizo las cosas mal. Solamente estamos hablando de la figura principal, que es el referee. No pasó para nada desapercibido. Piénselo un poquito, nada más.
in this case, we are not talking about the boxers, about what Diego did and what Rios did, and we are all talking about the referee.
I'll be happy to answer that, unless you want to take it close. Sorry about that. Do I need a translator? I know my...
Well, this is like the influence of the World Cup, you know? This is the first boxing match after the World Cup, big boxing match, and the referee gave Diego a red card.
I didn't say anything about your sister. Did you say, what did I say about your sister? Oh, in response to a question. Would you like? No, in response to your question, sir, depending upon the fight, you know, sometimes the referee, you don't see him because it's predicated on the actions of the fighters. You know, quite frankly, in Las Vegas, you know, ask around the country, we've got some of the best, if not the best referees in the world right here. In this particular fight, when the fighters aren't listening and following the direction of the referee, and it becomes a health and safety issue for the fighter, naturally you're going to see the referee get involved more often than you would if the fighters would adhere and listen to the referee. Therefore, unfortunately, the referee had to do his job, and he was involved in the action more often than, quite frankly, he would have liked to have been. And I say that with all due respect to you and your fighter, and
Thank you,
the
Bob.
unfortunate situation.
It's getting real late here. I want to thank everybody for coming. I want to thank the Cosmopolitan for being